Hello, this is BJ from Hearns Hobbies and welcome to one of my long builds. It's been a long time in the making. I'm going to continue building the Blockhead Motors Wild One. Now this is the one which is the 75th anniversary edition that we've put together, and this is number 1 of the 10. And I actually started building this in April and I've been putting it off for a little while because I had a small mishap. And I actually was building quite a bit of it for the next part and I lost the footage. So I've pulled it apart, and so that's why some of these bits are going to look a bit odd because they've already been cut off their sprues. So why don't we continue? All right, so where we're up to, this is basically what the car looks like at the moment. Okay, so we have the main chassis put together, decals on the side, front suspension, quite a lot of it's already done. So that is part 12. So we're going to move on to step 13 now, which is starting to put together the rear suspension. So let's see, what do we need? So we've got these blocks and these shafts as well. They'll be for the trailing arms, and also the battery, I guess sort of Nerf bars, which are on the side here. All right, so let's try and find all the bits and where I put them all. Let's see, I've probably got them all in bags here. As you can see, I've bagged up everything that I've taken back off the car. So let me shift that over here. Get these bits out. All right, so I've got all the screws and stuff there together. So let's find these bits. Okay, so there's E5 and E6. Got Nerf bars, which we'll use later. I've got that center part. Shafts. And 3 by 12 mil screws. So we need 4 of those. Okay, let's start from one end. So let's just make sure we get these right. Don't want to screw in the wrong way around. Okay, so that's one for this bit. So this will be over here. Alright, so I'll start screwing it in. Locate it first. Once we've got one end in, we can start putting in the shafts. Now this is going to be quite special once it's finished. It's going to have the extra engine detail, and I'll probably go to the trouble of fitting some LED lights to this as well, because we actually saw Surian's one, which is sent over from Western Australia, so we could use at the Vintage Bash. Had lights in that one. They were like disco lights, which look pretty spectacular. I think I'll keep it a bit simple and I'll leave it with just some really bright LED white lights. So slide into there. And then we've got this spacer shaft. Now before I slide that one on, let's pop in shaft and have this in this point, and then we can lock it into place with the 2 screws. Let's put that in a couple of turns so I can get this screw out. Oops. Oh, lost it. There we go. Just carefully put the screw in the hole. This is where a magnetic screwdriver can be helpful at times. Oh, there we go. It's worked out well. Okay, so we'll just screw that all together, and we've got our support shafts for the trailing arms. I'll just do these up tight. Then the other side. There we go, so we've got the shafts in. All right, so now we're going to do the Nerf bars, which are these parts here. Now again, we're just going to make sure that we get the right sides on. Okay, so that's got the cutout, so that goes on that side. And then that one goes here, and this one goes here. Alright, so our screws go from the inside here. Like so. Now let's just locate the other side as well. So a little locating pin there, just be careful that it goes into the right spot. Okay, then we can start screwing it together onto these two sides of the Nerf bars. Can be a bit tricky screwing these up from the inside. Just need to try to keep the tool as straight as possible so you don't strip the heads. Alternatively, if you had a really short screwdriver, that'll be helpful. Just so I can fit within this battery compartment. I think that's working out alright. Okay, so let's just pull on these to see if they're tight. Yeah, they're good. Okay, so I'm going to do the other side. Again, there's a little locating point for, so there's 3 holes here. That bottom one goes into the locating point, and then the screws go into the bottom. Locate both sides. Makes it easier to screw it tight. And here we go. I'm screwing it up on those Nerf bars. Okay, so that's practically step 13 done. Step 14 is going to be a part of support for the gearbox. Okay, so that's tight, both sides are tight, which is good. Okay, so let's go and get the next lots of bits, which I'll put in this bag. Right, so there's like a long body mount screw. So that's this one, and then a washer. Okay, so we just make sure we pop the washer through this long body mount screw first. That goes into this center point. Now, where's my box wrench? Box wrench is over here. And we just screw that all together. It's the wrong way around. Now make sure you put the washer in here, because without the washer, there's a chance that you can over screw this particular part and it'll go all the way through into the plastic. Now I want to try and align this hole so it's easy to access. So just spin this around so it's around this side. So that's good. Okay, so we've got the access to the hole. The hole is longitudinal to the chassis now. All right, what do we got next? So we've got these little supporty things here, G10, so they're both the same. Don't have to worry about orientation. Okay, and they're going to be located on these holes here. So one side's got a be careful because the screws go through a different way. Okay, so one side's got the long screw, this one here. So then this screws through there first, and then it's held together with a nut on the end. Okay, so let's screw this all the way through. Further long thread going through here, so just take your time. You just see the thread poking through now. Okay, now let's pop this in place. So that is facing this way. There is a slot too that this part fits into, so pay attention to that. Then we've got a washer and a spacer. So there's a thick spacer there, goes on there, and then we'll make sure we put these lock nut on. Use the help of this box wrench and we'll tighten it all up. Oh, it's not meant to be a lock nut, it's meant to be a square nut. Good thing I caught that, because that wasn't going to be very happy in there. Okay, so let's screw that up. Okay, so let's just hold that together there, and we'll do a bit of a tightening from both sides. Okay, so that's in place. Now the other side goes on the other way around. Okay, so we just need to make sure that this goes from the top. We've got this 3x12 of the washer, and that just screws through the top. Let's get that in there. There we go. Okay, and let's just tighten that up. There we go. Okay, so they're the mounts for the gearbox casing. That's still a little bit loose, so let's tighten that up a bit more. There we go, it's much tighter now. Okay, so where are we going now? We're going to do the roll cage. Okay, I'll pop that aside. Here's the two large pieces of the roll cage. Let's get them orientated right. Okay, so we've got this big shaft which has been threaded. It goes through the centers. Like so, and then this one will rotate around it. Oh, didn't want to do that. There we go. Okay, so we just want to make sure that that's all aligned correctly. So let's just move it into place. There we go. So just want to make sure that this is tight, but it's not overly tight. So there's still a bit of movement. That's great. Don't want it so loose that it's chattering. And then from there, what do we got? It's telling me to remove something. Oh, they're the little nipples which I've already cut off here for the new bodywork. Okay, so now we're going to start mounting this up to the chassis, and it's going to start looking like a real buggy now, because this adds on so much to the overall shape. So fit in these holes, like so. These parts are going to locate into the chassis here with some screws later on, but for the time being, the main roll cage is bolted from the bottom here with these lock nuts. Use a box wrench, make it easier. All right, so that's still loose, that's just locating at the moment, so we'll do that until I get the other one on. Okay, so now we're going to tighten them up. Okay, so that's finger tight, so you see how I spin the end of the box wrench, and then I actually get the leverage from the two cross arms, and then we'll tighten it up like this. Okay, so there's a fair bit of resistance now, and that's tight. It's one of the tricky things about these cars, being careful not to over tighten things, because it is generally through plastics, and the plastics can compress, and too much compression can actually lead to cracks and breakages. Okay, so that's pretty good. With that, we've got something that actually looks like a wild one now. It's still nice and tight. Okay, looking good. All right, what I've got here, I've got two body mounts left. Actually, maybe I should have put those on earlier, because now I've got the roll cage in the way. They go in here. I should still be able to access those. Yep. Let's put that down. Let's use two hands. Alright, so luckily the box wrench is pretty compact, so it's fitting underneath that roll cage quite easily. You can see it by there. Oops, I just lost one there. Okay, so again, I'm going to screw these up so that the holes through these body mounts are actually showing from the outside. That'll make it easier to get the pins in there. And let's pulling this out just so I can see where it's going. Here we go, it's coming around. Okay, so that's at right angles now, so the pin's going to fit this way. And we'll make sure we screw up this end the same way. So you can quite easily see the box in the back here. This is where the 4 AA's used to live to control the radio control equipment. That sort of stuff's not used anymore because all the power comes out of the speed controller through the BEC. Okay, so again, I'm just going to have a look here, make sure it's, actually that's perfect. Okay, so we've got both of these holes in the body mount pins going perpendicular, not perpendicular, at right angles. Okay, so there's pretty much a chassis. Looks pretty good now. I like it. Okay, let's put this aside because the next step is step 17, and that's working on the gearbox. Okay, so I've got the gearbox halves here. So you can see I've already had some grease in there from when I assembled it the first time. Alright, so what are we doing here? We're using the, that'll be this part. Okay, so I've got the big protrusion sticking out there, which are those. And we're going to be putting in the diff gears, which I've got here. Now what have I done with my stub axles? Are they here? Are these ones? That'll be these ones. Okay, so what do we got? We need a shaft. So I've got this shaft that sits in there. We need the bearing. So I've got the bearing here. So the kit itself actually comes with plastic bushings, but I'm fitting ball bearings into this particular build. And then we're just going to poke this stub axle through here because it's going to help us align the diff as it's going in place. Now here's the diff. I've actually got it together now, so I don't know if I really want to pull it apart, but I'll pull it apart just to show you. So this has already been greased up. It's got the spider gears inside, and we've got the 2 bevels on each side of that. Now you just got to pay attention because there is a spacer here. So this bevel gear is extended, and you just have to make sure you have it in the right way, which would be this way. So it drops in there. And then we've got the shaft with the spur gear. So it's got 8x5mm bearings in each side, which we'll just push in place. Drop that into here. Now I'm not greasing it at the moment because I've already greased it before. But at this stage, if you're just building it for the first time, you will be using the ceramic grease all the way around, and particularly quite a lot around the spider gears and the bevel gears. So you want to try and spread the load there. That's one of those areas in this particular car that is a little fragile. Okay, so what have we got here? Now we've got this spacer. So the spacer goes over here. Actually, we should do it through the other side. So over here, let's pop in the 11x5mm bearing. And then we've got this shaft, pop it in here. Washer. Actually, I'll put that spacer on this side. It makes more sense. All right, so what have we got left now? We have just the halves to marry together. Okay, so I'm just going to hold the half shaft on this side so it doesn't fall out. Same on this side. So these are going to marry up like this. So we're going to get the pin from here through the center of the diff, because that's the longest protruding part. Make sure it matches up with the stub axle on the other side. And then as we press it together, it all aligns itself. Now if we spin this, we've got the whole spur gear spinning. The spur gear is spinning in the middle. If I hold one side, we should get some diff action going on, and we do. Okay, so we're quite happy with that. So let's screw it together. So we're using 3x12mm screws. So there's 4 in total here. Hold together the gearbox. This one here. I'm just screwing these up a little bit just to keep the screws from falling out and keeping it all aligned straight, and then we'll start screwing it up tight. And I try to do opposing sides just so it pulls it all together and hopefully pulls it together straight. Similar sort of idea to when we're screwing together the heads on a gas engine. Okay, so they're the 4 screws. Put that in there. Okay, so there we go. We've got a gearbox. Now I've got a bit of blue tack there, which I actually put in there before because that was there to hold the stub axles in place so they wouldn't fall out. So we'll probably take those off now because we're getting into nitty-gritty pretty quickly. All right, so now we're on to the support of the gearbox, which is this quite interesting pressed metal part. Let's just make sure we get it in the right area here. So it's around the bottom. So spin it around so it orientates the same as the picture. Make sure we get this the right way around so the voids are on showing up. Push this in here. And then that's held together with a couple of screws. So a longer 3x15 comes in this end, and the shorter 3x6 comes through this end. Okay, so let's just tighten those up. The longer one's coming through this end because this part is actually, this screw is holding the gearbox halves together. Okay, there we go. Looks nice. Oh, we're losing a shaft, so just got to be careful there. We're going to mount this up now in step 19 onto the actual chassis. All right, so let's get this the right way around. Alright, so we've got our transmission mounts across the top here. Just squeeze that into there. And that's going to be held together with, what's that? That's one long 3x20. Now what have I done with the 3x20 screws? 3x20s? Actually, I just noticed I've got a bag full of shocks here. I think I missed a step from the front, so we'll jump back across later. But let me find that 3x20. So it must be in here. This is the rest of my bits. Those look like shock bits. Could be one of these. The great thing is we can match these up to the manual. That looks like a winner. Just grab that. And come through this end. So what goes through the other end? Oh, okay, 3x12s go through the other end. Okay, so this one goes through here. Oops. Alright, so that's that. 3x12 and 3x10s. 3x10s are probably in here. I've got two 3x12s here. Oh, there's one 3x12 and two 3x10s. There we go. So this one goes through the bottom. So this one doesn't actually hold the gearbox, it's actually holding the roll cage in place. So it goes through here. Let's do this gearbox one first. And I'll leave it loose. Let's do up this bottom of the roll cage. Okay, and then 3x10s to hold the gearbox on. These go through that funky bent steel component. Now seeing that's threaded, I'm going to use a little bit of thread lock on this. Now lucky that Brett's left me a little bit of thread lock just there. Now I always like using thread lock into other metal parts. So metal screw into a metal part. Should use some thread lock, otherwise it'll work its way loose. Okay, so that's screwed on, so now we're going to do the other side. So since I've got a 3x10 here already, let's put that one in. Now talking about thread locks, I'm using a sort of a common thread locker like Loctite. And that stuff is not very good to go through plastics. Sometimes it can destroy plastics, so just be careful that when you apply it, you only apply it a little bit on the threads, and it's not a whole heap coming off. If you do want to use thread lock that goes safe for plastic, then the Tamiya stuff is really well designed for that. That's a really thick, chunky, rubbery blue stuff. Okay, so now I need just one more screw, or two more screws. Two 3x12s from this side. And once we complete this step, I'm going to move back onto the front shocks. Right, so this goes through here. And this one is for the roll cage. Okay, so it's tight on that side. Let's come back here and tighten up the long screw from before. Okay, it's pretty firm. Now let's screw up the bottom of this roll cage. Okay, so that's sort of tight. That's tight. Gearbox here is all tight. Just checking the movement. I think I'm pretty good with that. All right, so let's jump back to what I missed. So step 12. Step 12 is actually mounting up the shocks to the front end. Okay, so I've got my bag of shocks here. And all of our related bits. Okay, so I don't think there's any left or right here, although I will make sure that I get the nuts to face the same way, just for aesthetics really. So I'll make the nuts face the inside, so we've got the screw head on the outside, which means this one will go this side. This one will go over here. So they're held in place with a 3x12. Okay, so that'll be these ones. So it's loosely screwed in. Let's just tack this one in place as well. All right, now let's tighten this up all the way. So it allows us to move the chassis around without everything falling off. It gives you the ability to be able to hold the chassis in a more comfortable position and I guess a more stable position, so you can actually screw in everything nice and tight. Okay, so there we go. We've got the shocks mounted on the lower swing arms. Like so. I've got a body mount as well. So here's the body mount. Need a washer. Pretty long body mount. And again, I'm going to align this. And it does show you in the manual as well to align the holes this way. Trusty box wrench. Now we'll watch it from the side so I can see the thread going in, so I don't over tighten. Okay, so that's finger tight at the moment. Check where the hole's facing, so it's facing forward. I'm going to rotate this around. And that's pretty much spot on. I'll back it off a little bit. Okay, so that's aligned to the way we need it. And now we're just going to mount up the shocks to the shock towers. So I've got these brass shock bushings. It goes through the rubber inserts from the top there. Do the same on this side. And then we've just got the screws to go through. Okay, so I've got the screws go through that bushing, goes through the shock tower. Is there a spacer? There is a spacer. So there's these little aluminium spacers. Make sure you put them on first before it goes through the shock tower. There we go. And then we're going to get our lock nuts. I'll put that on loosely just to hold it in place so we don't drop everything every day. And then I'll put on this side. Our spacer into the shock tower with our lock nut. Okay, so I'm going to hold the lock nut in place with our box wrench. Screw this up from this side. Okay, and then we'll spin it around. Do the same thing, box wrench, and screw it all tight. Okay, I think that's pretty good. Okay, so we've got our shocks all working there. So I'm working here. It's good. I like it. Feels good. Okay, so there's that step 12 that we missed before. We're going to come back. So we're up to now. We're up to step 21. So this is what we've got at the moment. It's looking pretty good. I like it. All right. We're going to do some drive shafts. So this is where I think the car's been upgraded at this point. Can't remember exactly. Someone might be able to tell me whether or not this had the hex drives or it had the dog bones. I've got a feeling it had the hex drives. So we're just going to chop up the rubber dust cover for the drive shafts. And they've got markings here to show you where to cut. So we're just going to cut the center section out. Cut the ends off. And then we've got the dog bones. So where are they? Find my drive shafts in here somewhere. Not in there. Oh, here we go. So here's a bag with some drive bits. So I'm going to be needing that. Right, so there's our drive shafts. Our dog bones. Nice and chunky pins that are going through these centers now. And then we've got the E4, which is our actual swing arms, which are going to be still molded over here. Where are they? They're over here. There we go. Our big chunky swing arms. So they're left and right, so you just got to bear in mind that they've got a hole for the mounting of the shock at a particular point. Just keep that in mind. I'm just going to cut these out now in preparation. Okay, so we've got our swing arms there. Now this particular one, you can check the drawings. So you can see where the hole is at this point. It's at the higher end, so we'll keep this on this side. And this one goes on the other side. Now let me find some scissors. So in the meantime, let's get this ready here. We're going to put some bearings in. I've got my selection of ball bearings here. So you notice that these are all the white bushings. These are supplied with the kit, but it's best to change them over to ball bearings. Ball bearings are very, very affordable now. It definitely will last much longer. So let's pop this into drive shafts, like so. Got my scissors now. So I've got my little scissors. Let's chop this up. So pay attention to the diagram, and we're going to cut this. We'll just do it roughly through the center first. Okay, and now we're going to trim it. Okay, so that's that end. And then we'll do this end. So I'm just squeezing it flat so that will cut through both sides at the same point. That's really clean. That's rubbish. Do exactly the same for here. Squeeze flat. Cut along the guideline. And then again on this side. There we go. Nice. A little bit of jagged edge. All right, so I won't be using those little rings, but here we go. We've got the protective points there. Now the dog bones, they're indicating a bit of grease on them. So I'll grease up one side of the bone first. That's going to help us push it through the rubber as well. Okay, so I'm going to put a little bit on the ends of this, the bone, and then rub it across the top there. And then this is going to go through, because you don't want to tear any part of this. And then you just got to gently coax it and stretch it through. It's pretty tough down the center. There we go, so that's in now. Do exactly the same for the other side. Quite liberally on the pins, because the pins are quite sharp. And then we'll rub that across the top here. And the same thing here, let's poke it through. And that's in. Okay, so what are we doing now? We're going to thoroughly grease these. It's probably going to be easier to just grease the cups themselves. So let's grease this along the inside here. And then push it so you get a little bit on where the pins are going to sit too. Because when the pin goes in, it will just naturally spread these down the sides of the slots. Okay, so if we slide this over here, that's in there. Do the same thing this side, so on the inside of the cup, then on the edges pressed in. Slide the rubber over the top and then get the dog bone to sit into slot. There we go. Okay, so we've got 2 points there. Oh, I forgot the O-ring. O-ring is going to be quite important. Now, where are the O-rings? So O-rings are to help space the dog bone, and it puts pressure on the outside of the half shafts. Stops the half shafts from popping out and coming loose from the bevel gears on the diff. Now, where do I find these O-rings? So they're black O-rings. They're going to be in one of these bags that I've opened before. These are clear O-rings. Black O-rings. Some black O-rings in here. Alright, I think I'll be using these ones. Alright, so there's one black O-ring, another one. Pop those back in the cups. Might just use a screwdriver, make sure they're aligned down the bottom there. And the grease that's in there is going to hold them in place for the moment until they push up against the dog bone. There we go, so there's one again. And there's the other one. Okay, so we're just going to push those through into our swing arms. And that's step 21 done. Okay, so we're going to go to step 22, which is actually attaching the drive shaft. So we've got some more pressed metal parts. We'll find in here. There's one. Just digging through my bag of goodies. And there's the other one inside here. Okay, there's the other one. Alright, so let's pay attention to which way is which. Okay, so it's marked on the instructions which one's which there. So they've got a marking like that. So that's the left, so it's got an L on it. This one's got the R stamped into it. Okay, so the L is going to go on this side. It's screwed from the bottom, is it? Oh no, the screws go from the top. Really short 3x6s. Where are the 3x6s? No 3x6s there. None in there. Three by sixes. Okay, they must be in this bag here. Oh, there's some 2x6s here. Let's use these. Okay, so 3x20 as well. Is that 3x20? No. 3x6. Another 3x6. 3x20s. Let's see if these look too long to be through. Oh no, the black ones are 3x20s. Yep, they match up to the manual. Okay, so start mounting this up. I actually need 4 of these little screws. There's another 2 in here. There are. Okay, let's see if I can carefully get this in place and screw it up. Well, that's going into metal again, so I'm going to take a little bit of Loctite on the edge there. So this one, it's going to be a bit harder to get to. Let's screw this up first. Then I might be able to balance the screw onto here, and we'll poke it up through this way. There we go. Okay, just do those up tight. Actually, maybe I shouldn't have done that, because I'm meant to have the swing shaft in there. That was a bit silly of me. Let's undo those. I was too busy making sure I had the alignment right. Okay, there we go. Alright, so which one do I need again? This one here, we need the shock mount across the top, so we'll just make sure we get the right one, which is that one. I might just add a touch of grease to this. Generally we don't grease these parts, but I don't know. It says in the manual, so let's just add a little bit there, just so it's not absolutely dry. And I'll make sure the drive shaft fits in properly, so we'll get the right alignment, so that the shaft sits in the right spot. That doesn't feel right. Definitely not right. Okay, it's a bit hard to tell because we can't actually see what we're doing here. We're just going to make sure that that moves smoothly, so we know that the dog bone's in the correct spot now. So let's pop this back into place. And screw it together. Okay, there we go. So we want to make sure that's smooth. The drive shaft is moving smoothly. And you'll see that the particular shape of this pressed metal part, there's a pin that protrudes from the swing arm, and that is the lock for the suspension upwards and also downwards. And that stops the drive shaft from getting dropped out as well. Feels good. All right, let's do the other side. Now, actually I didn't put any grease in there. Does that matter? Probably will. So I'm just going to pull back this rubber part. I'm just going to do the dodgy. Put in a little bit of grease here. Like so. And we'll spin that around. And we'll do the other side. spun it too much. There we go. A little bit of grease on this side too. Oh, it's probably too much. All right, excellent. There we go. Well, since I've got this out, let's put a bit of grease in here. All right, and we'll do exactly the same thing for the other side. Okay, so we're just going to drop this in place. Okay, so we've got this moving smoothly. Actually greased it this time, which is important. So we can put this locking bracket on now. Spin around, we'll get those short screws and a little bit of Loctite again. Let's get that first one in. And we'll do that trick again where balance the screw on the top of the screwdriver. And we'll tighten it up. Okay, so it's tight on the inside, on the outside. Okay, it feels good. Okay, so we've got smooth action there. We've got smooth action here. And now in step 22, we're just left with these two screws and the crossbar at the back, which I have here. Again, they'll be threaded, so we're going to use a little bit of Loctite on each end of these. Through there. Through this side. Oh, totally missed it. Okay, and then we just tighten it up from each side. There we go. So that is step 22 complete, and that's what we ended up with. A far cry different to what we had after the first two build sessions. And so this is a third, this is after 3 hours. It is actually longer because I had to redo some parts, but it's coming along now and looking really good. The silver really helps bring out the details. And there we go. So thank you for joining me for episode 3. We're up to step 22 of building the Blockhead Motors Tamiya Wild One. And this is the Hearns exclusive 75th anniversary edition. And we'll be getting to more of that a bit later on, which is going to have all the engine detail at the back. And that's all from Night Customs. So thank you for joining me for this one. And if you like this episode, please give me a like below. And if you'd like to see more, please think about subscribing. So thank you very much.